I'm very happy today to speak about eco-criticism, green theory, because if there is one thing about which I am more passionate than I am about literature, it is nature. And I'm no armchair nature lover. Throughout my life, in my own modest way, I have tried to protect nature and to regenerate the environment. Using my personal resources, I have attempted to create and I have succeeded in creating a small private forest. And the small private forest has reached the stage where it can survive, where it can flourish with almost no human intervention. I shall be creating videos on the forest eventually, but today I shall be not saying anything more about it, and I shall be focusing my attention on eco-criticism, on green theory. We shall begin with the question: when did eco-criticism, when did green studies begin? I can say with all the conviction at my command that eco-criticism, that green studies, is as old as the Ramayana of Valmiki. Because there are shlokas in the Ramayana which voice thoughts, which voice feelings, which are very much in sync with the fundamental principles of eco-criticism, of green studies, as we understand the subject today. I shall again eventually be making a video on this. However, eco-criticism became popular in Western academia only in the late 20th century, in the late 1970s and the 1980s. What is eco-criticism? Eco-criticism is a combination of two terms, ecology and criticism. Ecology means the natural environment, the physical environment which is not created by man. Ecology means nature. Criticism is analysis, evaluation, and comprehension. Eco-criticism is an attempt to analyze, evaluate, and comprehend culture in general and literature in particular, keeping in mind the ecology. So, eco-criticism is an application of certain principles associated with the ecology to culture, in particular to literature. Very clearly, it's an interdisciplinary area where perspectives from ecology, which can be seen as a part of the subject called biology, are applied to literature, which is part of culture. What is green studies? You know what is the meaning of studies. In this context, it means analysis, evaluation, and comprehension of culture, especially literature. Because in this context, we study culture, we study literature in particular. What is green studies? Green is the color of the leaf. Green is the color of the forest. Green is easily the single most important color in nature. So green means environmentalism. Green represents environmentalism. Green symbolizes concern for nature. Green stands for the philosophy, the praxis which strives to protect the ecology. So, green studies is the study of culture, especially literature, from a green perspective or from an ecological perspective. I think for our purpose, we need not do much hair splitting. We need not go into the nuances. There are differences between eco-criticism and green studies, but for now, we shall say that both are more or less the same thing. Eco-criticism is more American, green studies is more British. The epicenter of eco-criticism, the epicenters are the American universities and educational centers. The epicenters of green studies are the British universities and the educational centers. It is generally accepted that Cyril Glotfelty is the founder of eco-criticism. Though this can be disputed, it is a fact that Cyril Glotfelty was the first professor of literature and environment in the United States. She was also the founder, or more correctly, the co-founder of the Association for the Study of Literature and Environment, ASLE, which hosts conferences regularly and publishes journals, all for the cause of eco criticism. Let us try to identify the fundamental principles of eco criticism. The first of these is that ecology is reality. Ecology is reality. At first sight, this may appear to be a trite statement. Who says that ecology is not reality? But though it may appear to be a banal observation, this first principle is a crucial and foundational axiom of eco criticism. When we try to introspect our lives, we discover that we seldom remember the fact that ecology is reality. We take it for granted. Nature is real, solidly real. But as we move through our lives, we tend to ignore this very basic fact. Nature is real, is tangibly real, is overwhelmingly real, and nature encompasses us. But we constantly ignore nature. That is why eco criticism accepts as its first basic principle the axiom, the statement that ecology is reality. Secondly, eco critics attempt to find connections between nature and culture. Culture, especially literature. The main task, the primary task of the eco critic is to establish connections between nature and literature. To read literature from the perspective of ecology. It is the responsibility of the eco critic to interpret literature, to analyze literature, to evaluate literature from the perspective of the environment. This is possible. The second is possible only if the first is there. Only if there is a very compelling realization that nature is real, that nature is tangibly, overwhelmingly, solidly, encompassingly real, that we can do justice to the responsibility of attempting to establish connections between nature and culture in general and literature in particular. You must understand that the great strength of eco-criticism is that it is based on reality and not on a concept. Nature is real in a very tangible manner, in a very absolute manner. Nature is not a concept. Nature is not an idea. Nature is not a theory. And eco-criticism is criticism which uses nature as a pivot. Hence, the pivot of eco-criticism is something solidly real. Unlike, say, Marxism, where the entire analysis, the entire evaluation, the entire interpretation is carried out on the basis of a set of concepts, on the basis of a theory, on the basis of a theoretical framework. The point I'm trying to make is that eco-criticism is one of the strongest schools of criticism because it uses as its pivot something solidly real, tangibly real, and not something as hollow, as imaginary, as conceptual as a theory. The third fundamental principle is that it is not enough that the eco-critic establishes links between ecology and culture or ecology and literature, but that he should do this with a sense of commitment. Commitment to what? Commitment to ecological praxis, commitment to environmental praxis. The commitment of the eco-critic should be not to the human species alone, but to ecology as a whole. He should remember that ecology is not something which exists for the use of the human species. Ecology is not just a resource at the disposal of the human species. On the other hand, the human species is part of the ecology, just a part of the ecology, with nothing special about it. Man is in no way better than a blade of grass. Eco-criticism is thus powerfully anti-anthropocentrism. From the point of view of eco-criticism, the fundamental flaw of human civilization is its blind anthropocentrism. We have already started paying the price of this blind and violent anthropocentrism. The task of the eco-critic is to reverse this tendency.